I remember great teachers growing up. Teachers changed my life. But these are obvious, glaring examples of how screwed up unions can be when they become too powerful. And it is happening in every state in America, in every single profession. This is not America. At least it didn't used to be, and we'll never recover if we allow this to continue to happen. How did we get here? I'll show you the answer to that next. We're talking about economic solutions today, not just the problems, but the solutions. And when you talk about it, it's almost sacrilegious to dare even bring up Social Security or Medicare. It's as if those programs just fell from the sky right out of heaven into the laps of our founding fathers. But the problem is, we don't know history. We don't know our own history. Our founders would have rejected such concepts if they had been, as if they had been spat up from the bowels of hell. Far from a birthright or any kind of right, these programs were instituted not in the 18th century, not in the 19th, but just a few years ago in the 20th century. In fact, Herbert Hoover, he got the snowball rolling. Remember the evil Republican didn't care about anybody, Herbert Hoover? 1932, he passed the Emergency Relief and Construction Act. Then FDR pushed an avalanche of social programs down a hill. The avalanche that is now crushing any kind of ski lodge that might have been there beneath. FDR knew exactly, full well, exactly what he was doing. He said, and I quote, "We put those payroll contributions in there so to give the contributors a legal, moral, and political right to collect those pensions. With those taxes, no damn politician can ever scrap my Social Security program." He knew that once Americans expected those payments at a certain age, oh, we'd never let go of them. When we talk about cutting Social Security, I don't want to scare Grandma and Grandpa, and even my dad and mom. I don't want to think anybody's going to take away their Social Security. I'm talking about people like me who are coming into the system. You know, I've still got years and I can still work. It's over. I don't want to live on Social Security. I don't want the government to be responsible. Have you seen the way they care for people? When you give up your responsibility, you give up rights. Benjamin Franklin said, "Those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety." And we're not going to get either of them. That's usually associated with the security of the nation's defense, but it applies, I think, to Social Security as well. From time to time, the government was tempted to get involved in things it shouldn't before the progressives took hold in America, but we always push back. 1887. 1887 in Texas, several Texas counties faced a long drought, and farmers were losing their crops. I don't know, maybe it must have been early, global warming from cow flatulence. I don't know. But Texas, the politicians helped convince Congress to grant $10,000 worth of free seeds for the distressed farmers. Well, the bill passed the House, then it passed the Senate. And it had to go to the White House. Grover Cleveland was in office. He vetoed it. He said, and I quote, "It will destroy the partitions between the proper subjects of federal and local care and regulation. I can find no warrant for such an appropriation in the Constitution." To add insult to injury, Cleveland added, "The friendliness and charity of our countrymen can always be relied upon to relieve their fellow citizens in misfortune." Yes, because we're Americans. But now people will say, "Oh, well, why did Grover Cleveland hate farmers so much?" Or maybe it was Texas. Are they different than him somehow? Why does he want to starve children? The answer, of course, he didn't hate any of those groups or people. He loved the Constitution, and more importantly, he trusted the American people. In the end, how did it work out? $10,000 was appropriated. It didn't go. Oh, the suffering. The contributions from the neighbors and the citizens from all over the country totaled more than $100,000, or 10 times what Congress wanted to give them. What would life be like in America if we suddenly did the same thing, if we started trusting in the Constitution and trusting in the American people, I'm guessing things might get a lot better. Back in a minute. Yesterday, we saw a man named Joseph Stack fly a plane into a building in Austin, Texas, and we talked last night about how this crazy person was going to be used by both sides to call their opponents dangerous. It's their fault, it's their fault. Didn't take long. Didn't take long on the side of the right-wing nut-job conspiracy theorists now that are saying that this was a government stage crash to make it look, make the Tea Parties look like they're bad, really. You know, the government's incompetent. I don't know if you noticed that. I mean, if they wanted to pin this on the right, they perhaps should have edited out the left-wing complaints about the insurance companies, religion, big business, George W. Bush, you know, and the whole suicide note thing. On the left, however, the Washington Post has decided to make those edits. They edited the manifesto and tried to place the blame on the right. So maybe they're right, or is that what they want me to think? If you read this suicide note as posted by Jonathan Capehart, you know, a very credible journalist on the Washington Post website, you'll get this. Well, Mr. Big Brother IRS man, let's try something different. Take a pound of my flesh and sleep well, Joe Stack. Oh, yes. Yes. Print it. I love it. But what did he actually write? It seems like the Washington Post skipped just a couple of itsy-bitsy details. Like this. The Communist Creed, from each according to his ability to each according to his need. The Capitalist Creed, from each according to his gullibility to each according to his greed. See, skipping the praise of communism and mocking capitalism, you don't think that might have been important when trying to describe his ideology? The Washington Post take from all of this, quote, I'm struck by how his alienation is similar to what we're hearing from the extreme elements of the Tea Party movement. Yes, yes, you are so right. Washington Post, good for you for thinking this one through, because I can't tell you how many times I've been to a pro-communist, anti-capitalist Tea Party. They're great. Sure, we could develop a scoreboard and use every killer on the left and the right to blame our political enemies. You know, we could just go back and forth, but instead, why don't we just take a minute? And I'll make myself a de facto spokesperson for both the left and the right. Shut up. Crashing a plane into a building is not part of the Republican, Democrat, or Independent platforms. It's the act of attempted murderers and maniacs. It's okay if one news story goes by without you blaming a certain party or a group of people. This is not your team versus my team. It's domestic terrorism. And we should treat it seriously, not as a way to grab a third, you know, a third of a percentage point in the polls back from your political opponent. What do you say? Shall you join me on that American thing? Right back. Yeah, pip, pip, and all the rest.
I love coming to CPAC. President Obama's self-proclaimed B+ will go down in history as the biggest exaggeration since Al Gore's invention of the internet.
I am Scott Brown from Rentham. I'm the Republican senator from Massachusetts. And here I am in Washington, D.C. I drive a truck. You know?
CPAC is happening right now in Washington, D.C., and tomorrow night, I mean, I'm there to close it. I'm the keynote speaker. You'll see it at 6 o'clock tomorrow live on Fox. From New York, good night, America.